Hello, in this video we'll discuss this topic business process modeling. If you are a student, then this will help you understand this topic better, and it might help you finishing your term project and with use of the tools like Prom and Bizagi. So what we are going to cover in this video. So first we'll try to understand the business process modeling. We'll take you through some theory part. After that, we'll create a log file, input the log file to the Prom software, which is a process mining software. We are going to use this alpha miner algorithm to design the Petri net, and finally we'll use this Bizagi tool, which is really good tool for process simulation and process optimization. And in that we are going to discuss in detail process validation, time analysis, resource analysis, and calendar analysis. Okay, so let's start with some theory part first. And yeah, it is here. So what is process discovering, right? So for example, in real scenarios, we have many processes like disaster recovery process, or in production companies we have very complex processes which involved many suppliers and many vendors, and a very complex process, right, which cannot be managed manually. And we need some kind of automation and visualization to improve, fine tune the existing process, and to find the problems, and for fine tune the cost utilization, or fine tune the resource utilization, etc, etc. We are going to use this Prom software. So let's start. And yes, so I will explain you how alpha algorithm works. First we need, for example, there might be some existing process, or there is a process which we are going to define from scratch. In either case, first we need to create a log file which have multiple scenarios and different activities. For example, we have 4 activities here: A, B, C, D. In some scenarios we can perform like we start with A, then C, B and D, etc, etc. So what are the relations defined between the activities? The first is in direct succession relation, which denoted by X succession of Y, if in some cases X is indirectly followed by Y. What is a causality relation? Is Y is always followed by X, and X is never followed by Y. It's called a causality relation. If two activities can be done in parallel, so in some scenarios it will be like X comes before Y, in some scenarios it's like Y comes before X. So we have to add both the scenarios for Prom to understand that these two activities X and Y are in parallel relationship. And the last one is choice. Assume two scenarios, one have X as an activity, another have Y as activity. It means that Prom will understand X and Y are two independent activities, and the depends on the situation we can choose between either of the two activities, right? So it's a choice. And how these relationships will be converted in Petri net, we'll try to look at that now. So for example, this is in direct relation and this is in parallel. So from after X, it will put the tokens in both the places, and Y and Z can be executed independently and parallelly, right? Because both have different token places. So all the parallel activities, Prom will generate the Petri net in this form. And this is in choice because X puts one token here. After that, we have to choose between the activities Y and Z, right? Because we have just one token, we can go with either Y or Z in each scenario. So this is the presentation of the scenario where Y and Z are in exclusive choice relationship. So I think you should be able to understand these graphs now. And this is a simple 8-step algorithm called alpha algorithm for process mining. If you are not able to understand this, it's really simple, but if you are not able to understand, then don't worry, because it's not written in English. Yeah. So here is a sample log file we have to generate. We will have one more column here with scenarios. We'll do it in our hands-on later on. This is in the same video. So we have number of activities, activity ID, and we have resources or the organizations or departments who is going to perform that activity. We can also have cost and time involved for each activity. Okay. Yeah, and Prom software job is to take this log file as an input and generate for us such kind of Petri net or the process detail diagram. Right, this is some other slides. Yeah, so alpha algorithm will be available in Prom as a plugin which you need to download separately. So if you are new to Prom software, then there are two. Let me show you. Okay, so this is a primary Prom software, and you can use this Prom PM 6.9 for package management or plugin management, you can say. So you have to use this to add the Alpha Miner plugin, and then you can use it. And finally, it will also help us to generate these social nets, which will show the dependency and the relationship between different resources and algorithms. Okay, so now we will start with so this I have, for example, I have one sample scenario of a crisis management. The scenario is like flooding of the city of Blios. And what are the steps? Here one scenario is explained in detail, like first step will be to set up a crisis cell by prefect. It will inform the mayor of the city, and mayor will go ahead and inform the population, and then plan for traffic management and uh, population management and healthcare facilities, and etc, etc. So it will it's include lot many activities which are given in this table. So first table is for actors or resources. So we have around 8 or 10 actors in the description of the actor. Then we have all these activities which are performed by these actors, and the type of the activities are like it's a manual or automated and something. After that, we have dependencies between the activities, like some activity must comes after. So if you remember, we have parallel, casuality, and choice, right? Three different edges we have seen. So that kind of relationships between the different activities which is specified in this table, and so on. And yeah, in for example, here in this table we have given that which activities are in parallel and which activities are in choice relationship. Okay, so with use of this question, first we need to understand this whole scenario, and we have to design or come up with a we have to design and come up with this kind of log file. If process is already available and implemented, you might find such kind of log file readily available, and if we are designing from scratch, you have to do this task manually. In this task, I have duplicated the scenarios and uh, slightly modified the scenarios and came up with these 12 scenarios for Prom to understand this complex scenario better. So for example, for scenario consists of 22 activities. So all these comes under first scenario. This is the event ID and activity name, resource or the actor who is going to perform that activity, the time required to finish that activity on an average, and what is the cost involved for resource and time analysis by Bizagi. Okay, so you have to come up with this, and this task should be done manually. Okay, so once you are ready with the log file, now you can go to Prom. So here is the Prom. Let me start again. Okay, so this will be the home page of this Prom software. GUI is obviously not that good, but it's really simple. Uh, First we'll import the log file into Prom. It will convert the CSV file to the XCS format. Okay, then we'll go ahead, so click next. So it will convert, select the file, start. Yeah. At this stage you should be able to look, you should be able to find this in column separated values. If it's in this form, it's good to go. Click next. Here I'll select the case ID as the scenario ID, right? Yeah, and here I'll select activity. So the Prom in Petrinet, all the transactions will have these labels as activity name. In expert configuration, here you should select these resources because this column specifies the resources. Okay, and click next and finish. Okay, so in this screen it shows that Petrinet has found out just one process in the log file which has 12 different scenarios which have in total 252 events, right, and 24 unique events or activities and 10 different actors or resources, right? So you can verify that Prom has properly read your log file or not. Then click next. Okay, here you will be able to find all the plugins which we installed with the Prom package manager, right? And now we'll look for alpha minor. So you just filter it and you'll find alpha minor here. Click start, finish. Yes, and here we have a Petrinet diagram which shows that the sequence of activities in this particular scenario, and Prom has automatically found that okay, these three activities can be done in parallel. Okay, so can you check this? These activities can be done in parallel, and these are the choice because it is, as I have explained, the relation, different relation, and these activities are in causality relation. So it also makes sense because for any disaster recovery, first the prefect will launch COD, then it will set up the communications cell, it will notify mayors, and it will also inform zone prefect, which can be done in parallel. And these activities, for example, stop of the traffic and then T2 settings, it should be done by same department but in sequence. We can see its causality relation, blah blah blah. Okay, and finally we'll end the COD and finish this process. So once you are done with this design, we will use this Bizagi software to really implement and try to simulate this process. Okay, so here I have simulated the same process in Bizagi. I will try to explain. This software is also a bit complex to use, but with use, for example, you have multiple start events you can choose from, right? You have multiple gates available, exclusive gate or parallel gate for parallel activities, exclusive gate for uh, choice, and event based gates and so on. So it's really very comprehensive tool for process designing. For each different department, not department but organization, we should have different lanes, different pools. So here I have taken one pool as in prefect office, where we have a head office, and here we have a zonal office. And the second pool is of the city and all its different departments like health department or fire department and traffic control department, etc., etc. And the first lane is for mayor, right? If you are once you design this, you have to validate this process. If you are getting the errors, it means that you have not uh, respected all the required designing, what you can say, like there are some prerequisites which you should learn first and implement. So let me show you. Yes, okay. So sometimes you will get this kind of errors like please ensure that your model is not compliant. Please ensure that your model is compliant. So in that case, you have to go through all the steps. For example, in each line we should have a start event and a stop event, and keep your model really simple and easy to understand. So these all rules you have to go through and make sure that you are following and respecting all the designing rules. Once you will be able to validate this, so for example here I'm able to validate, uh, then you should go to this simulation view. In simulation view we have four parts. First is in process validation, where we'll do the simulation of just process, whether my process is able to execute and it covers all the activities or not. Then we'll try with the time analysis, in which we'll specify the time for each activity. For example, here it takes 1 hour to set up the crisis management cell, that is COD, and so on, and we'll study later. And we have resource analysis, where we can plan utilization of the different resources and costing, and calendar analysis. So let's try to run this process validation first. So from here you have to go and click run and start. Okay, so uh, here I have triggered the 5 crisis events, right? And I have executed it, and it is showing that okay, my process covers all the activities in prefect line as well as this city of Blios pool. Okay, so you can also download this process execution in your report as an Excel file. Okay, so process validation run successfully means that my process is perfect. Now I will go to time analysis. Here I need to mention the time for each activity, right? So you can mention whether it's 2 days activity or according to your assumption, and we have already assumed the time required for each activity while planning and costing as well. So here, after putting the time for all the activities, right, we'll run it. It will show this completed activities, number of completed activities, then the average time taken by each activity and the total time, right? So you can analyze this, and the process owner or the process owner can also analyze these results, that total time taken for all the activities is 20 days and so on. So there is a lot of information and statistics for analysis and process improvement here also. For example, this 5 crisis management overall took just 96 days, 3 months. If it's not acceptable, you can fine tune the process and do the improvements in your overall process and timeline. So it's really helpful. And after that, we'll go to resource analysis, where for each activity, first for resource analysis, we have to go to resources, add all the resources who are the actors for each activity. For example, prefect, mayor, and this is the count of resources. Like we have 7 ARS and DDTs or fire management service, we have 4 departments or 4 resources available there, and so on, right? So according to your process, you have to define. You also need to define the cost of each resource. You have 2 ways to define it. It's either fixed cost or cost per hour. For example, I've selected like 20 euro per hour for prefect and mayor, and 15 euro for all other department employees. So it will this simulation will give you the estimated cost of each process, and here you will define the overall cost of execution of this activity, right? So employee cost is different, and this cost is different. So for each activity you have to define the time required. So Bizagi will multiply this time with the cost per hour, and it will give you the time total cost. You can also specify which actors can perform this activity and or operators, and how many minimum resources are required to perform this activity. You can also put here the total activity cost, and you can select the calendar, right? So once you are done with all these adjustments for all the activities, just click on run and simulate. Here it gives the utilization of all the resources, and in result also you can find like, okay, prefect department is utilized 96% and so on. So from this you can fairly distribute the workload between all your employees and departments. You can fine tune it. You can also manage the cost. You can find the costly activities and fine tune accordingly, and so on, right? So I have tried my best to explain you how this software works. In case of errors, you have to follow the help provided by Bizagi here, and this is really helpful. You will be able to execute once your model uh, satisfies all these conditions. Okay, so in this video we have understood this process modeling. Then we created the log file. Then we use this Prom to generate the Petri net, and finally I have explained you the Bizagi and all 4 options available for simulation. Okay, thank you for watching this video.